Okay, so this video is primarily for Maya Lite users or Maya LT. It's going to show you how you can export out of Maya as an FBX and use Blender to create your BVH files for animation. And okay, so let's get started. So here we are in Maya. We have Z up is the orientation, which is the same as Second Life. Now, most of the time with animations, you want to have Y up, but not in this particular instance. So, okay. So, first thing, okay, so you're going to, let's say you're going to want to animate the skeleton. So, what I would do is, I would just animate just the skeleton. It'd probably be the easiest to do. But you'll get the gist of it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the animation skeleton for the bento. I'm going to actually do this on the bento skeleton. So so you go File, Open Scene, and you go to your Documents folder, Maya, and now I'm going to 2014. You go to your normal one and then your scripts. Okay, and of course I'm in Maya binary. You can see these are all the files that come with Avastar. And the file you want to open up, we're going to do the female bento skeleton. So you want to look for Avastar animation skeleton bento, female bento. Okay, let's just close a couple of these windows. Okay, now you'll notice that she is not standing up correctly. And that's because this is meant to be used with, when you go to activate female bento, and then after that opens up, you click animate bento female. This is part of that process. This is the skeleton that it brings in to animate with. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to get her standing up straight. Okay, well, let's get this out of the way first. And hold down the J key, and that way it goes with 15 increments of 15 degrees. Okay, so first thing you need to do is you need to create a locator. Okay, then in your outliner, you need to select the animation skeleton, hold down your middle mouse button, and drag it onto the locator so that it becomes parented to the locator. Then you click on the locator again, because if you don't, you don't have the locator selected. Okay, so we're going to click on the locator again, have it selected, hold down the J key, and we're just going to pop her up to 90 degrees. Okay, now that we have that done, let's go to the home. There we go. So now she's standing straight up and down. Okay. Now she'll probably have animation joint size. She'll probably look like this, all skinny. But this is how you can make it bigger. Let's see, window. Oh no, I'm sorry, display. Then you go down to animation and joint size. The reason I did that is I want you to be able to see the joints. Now that we have the root for the animation skeleton picked, you can see that the joint orientations are wrong. They're set up for Y up. We want Z up. So select your locator again. Okay, so you select your locator, and then you excuse me, come down here to, excuse me. Okay, then after your locator is selected, it doesn't matter if you're in rotate or move mode, you come over here to modify freeze transformations, and you want to freeze transformation on the translate, rotation, and joint orient. Those three for sure. You don't have to do scale. And you can, I don't think these two particularly matter. Now watch what happens when I click apply. Let me zoom in. Okay, we'll look at this hip bone there. When we hit apply, it changes the joint orientation to match the world, which is exactly what you want to have happen. You want the hands and everything. Not only did that change the joint orientation for the animation skeleton, it also should have changed the joint orientation of the export skeleton, which it did. So, okay, now that we've froze transformation of that, we can now unparent and get rid of the locator. So you select the animate skeleton, you hold down your middle mouse button, and you just drag it up so that it's in between something. You don't want it to parent it to something else, but just anywhere up here in between something. And you let go. Now we can get rid of the locator. Okay, so now we have our animation skeleton. Our hip skeleton, which is the skeleton we actually export with, is parented to the animation skeleton. It's already parented, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay. And so, okay, so let's go back, because we're going to be animating the skeleton. Okay. Now that we have that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on some human IK controllers. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is, in this script editor, put this line in. Okay, I think I'll put this in the description, so you can just copy and paste it out of the description. So what you do is you highlight it after you paste it in the script editor, hold down your right mouse button and hit execute. Why did it do that? Hold on. Oh, okay, I know why. I know why. Hold on. Okay, I know why. I have a little bit of a sore throat. I accidentally had the wrong skeleton selected. See, I had the hip, which is the root of the animation, or the export skeleton. I had this one selected. I needed to have that one selected. That's the animation skeleton, and that's the root of the animation skeleton. Now I can execute it. Okay. Now, you can't see the human IK controls because they're really small. So what we need to do is if you hold down the shift key and you hit the plus sign next to it, it expands the whole thing instead of just expanding a little bit, because we want to get all of this. Okay, so hold down the shift key. We want to select from the top to there to the bottom of there, and then you come over here to the radius, just click on radius, middle mouse button, drag to the right. You can change these sizes so we can actually see them. Okay, now that we got that done, we can now make some animations. Okay, so let's say we want to make a real quick animation, and we're in the move, we have the move tool, and you click on frame 1, and in your set key options, you want to make sure that you have these options selected. Okay, and I have my S key on my keyboard set for set key, so I can just hit the S key. So I got frame 1 selected, I hit the S key, frame 48. Now you can make yours as many frames as you want. You're not limited to just 48 frames. You can make it hundreds and hundreds of frames if you want. I'm just making a quick little loop animation. So I'm going to hit the set key after selecting frame 48. Then I'll come here to frame 24. And I'm just going to move it there. And then hit my S key again, or animate set key, or if you had it open, you can just hit apply. Any one of those will work. The default for the set key on most people's keyboard is the S key. Okay, so now we've created a real simple animation. Okay. And now let's say you want to make the character move. Okay. So, whoops, wrong one. Where's my outliner? There it is. Okay. So, if you want to make the character move now, you could constrain the animation skeleton to this. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm sure it will work. But just to be on the safe side, I'll show you the way I know works for sure. Click on Human IK. And once you have the Human IK with the Move tool, I can come in here on frame 1. I can key that with hitting the S key. I can key it there. And I can come to any one of these. I mean, I can come to 15. And I can move it forward. I can even do that. Come here. Bring it down. And say I want to rotate it. Hit the S key again. And now you can see there's, and what I'm doing now is, it's called scrubbing. I'm holding down my left mouse button in the timeline here, and I can go back and forth. So now we've made an animation that moves. Okay, now let's say we want to do another type of translation animation. I'll do it on a wing here. Now this is say you wanted to make a facial animation, and with the facial animations you can use rotation, or you can also do rotations or translations. So I'm just going to do a quick translation animation on this wing to show that it does work. So I'm going to hit the S key, come back here, set a keyframe there by hitting the S key, and say frame 24. I'm going to make that way up like that. Kind of a funky animation, but there we go. Okay, so now that we've made our animation, what's the next step? The next step for me is you want to always select the hip bone before you animate export. Always select the number 1 frame before you export. Just be on the safe side. Then you go File, Export Selection, and we're going to export this out as an FBX. Because like I said, Maya Lite users can only export out as FBX, and this is what this video is for. So you select FBX, and you make sure that you have these options selected. Default file extensions, nerves, retain quadrillion, interpolation selected. You're going to bake your animation. Oh, make sure animations is turned on. You're going to bake your animations, and this was 1 through 48. Good. Step 1, that's fine, or is fine. Then we're going to make sure that constraints and skeleton definitions is turned off. Make sure that's off. And make sure you have it set to centimeters. Don't have it on automatic. Make sure it's set on centimeters. And make sure you have Y up. Okay. And I happen to be exporting out with Maya 2014 FBX. I'm sure newer versions should also work as well. Okay, so now that we have that all set up, I'm going to go to my computer, and this just happens to be where I'm setting it. Okay, so, and I'm just going to name this 31. Medu was helping me figure some of this out. So this was tests that I was, so I'm just, that's why his name is in the test thing for it. Okay, so now that we've got it named, we just go export, and it's exporting. Okay, it's exported. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to go, if you don't already have one of these, I highly recommend you get, these are free from Autodesk, or this converter is free from Autodesk. I happen to be using 2013.3. Pretty sure newer versions would work just as well. Okay, so I'm going to remove all. I'm going to add, and there's the one that we just created. See, it's 1159. Maybe 31. Okay, and we're going to convert it to a DAE file. Now this is not a DAE file that we would be uploading to Second Life. This is a DAE file we're going to be importing into Blender. And we're going to convert it, and we're going to overwrite the existing one. Yes. Okay, so it converted it. So now, this is where we go over to Blender, and we're going to cancel. Let's start off with a brand new scene. Okay, first thing you want to do is you want to delete the cube, and then come in here to File, Import, and we're going to import that DAE that we just created. And the option, you want to find bone chains, option turned on. And we're going to go to where I saved it, and got to come back over here to, there's the 31 DAE, and don't, then you want to select over here. Now for some reason it's 49 frames in Blender instead of 48. Don't know why, it just happens to be that way. Okay, and now you can also scrub through. Now don't worry that the skeleton looks all disjointed. Don't worry about that. That's fine. Because we're basically done in here. We're basically done. It doesn't even matter where in here you have this. Okay, and if you want to play it, you can see that it's playing correctly. Just as in here, you can see it's playing correctly. Same exact animation. Okay, so all we have to do is go File, Export, and this is just the default built-in BVH exporter that comes with Blender. Now I just downloaded and installed Blender, which was really super easy. I didn't do anything else to it, so you just have to hit Export. Let's go here, and we'll call this 31. Okay, we just exported out. And I'm going to come over here. All these different camera controls get you confused after a while. Okay, I'm going to reset my skeleton. And I like to use Firestorm, because Firestorm actually plays the animation on the skeleton. The Linden Lab default viewer, it doesn't, in the preview little window, it doesn't have all the bones yet. So it's much easier to tell if it's in using Firestorm's animation. So we're going to upload the animation, And see, there's 31. So we're going to double click on it. And then we're going to say loop. And we're going to play it. And there's the animation. Now if the animation slightly looks different here, it's because it's on a male avatar. Let's see what it looks like on a female avatar. Let's see. There's the female avatar. Oh, probably should set the skeleton. Here we go. Whoops. Okay. Now, let's pause this and go here. And you see that this is translated up. And not a great animation. But you get the fact that it works. If I had the mesh on here, it'd probably be much easier to see. So anyway, so that's how you can make an animation. And since we only animated the right arm and the wing, and we just moved the whole avatar forward and back, you can see the legs and the other stuff weren't done. Let's see. What would happen if we put flying? Yeah. So that's what it would look like if the person was flying. And played the animation at the same time. Okay, anyway. Getting distracted. My ADD kicking in. Okay, so that's how you can make an animation. Now, this is BVH, and there's definitely some drawbacks to BVH, or I shouldn't say drawbacks. If you export out as a .anim exporter, I don't believe Blender has a built-in .anim exporter for Second Life. You'll have to buy Avastar for that. What you would do is, I don't know if Avastar can bring in a DAE with animations on it and export out a .anim going that route. But I have been told, Madu told me that Avastar can take BVH files and apply them, retarget, it's called retargeting. It retargets them to the Linden Lab avatar. So you could take this BVH file that we just created and then import that into Avastar and then export that out as a .anim. Some of the benefits to a .anim export is that you can set each bone, you can set the priority level. While this is the priority level. The higher the priority, say somebody has a walk animation and it's set to say 3 or 2, and you want to create an animation where you're just waving. You're making, like, you're going to make a little animation so they can wave to somebody while they're walking, and you're just animating the right arm or the left arm in hand. Well, when you upload your wave animation, you would upload it as a higher priority. That means that even though the walk animation is being played, if it's a lower, if they uploaded if somebody had uploaded a walk animation with a lower priority, than 4, your wave animation would override the walk animation, and since you only animated the right arm, the avatar would still continue to walk, but then the arm that you animated would then do the little wave, and then as soon as the animation was done, assuming you didn't make it a loop animation, it would go back to walking. That's how animations get layered on top of each other. You know, I know, and if you're, so anyway, so you have all these different priorities, all the way up 5 different levels, 0 being the lowest. Now, a dot anim animation, you can actually set the priority level of each individual bone in that animation. So, say you had an animation where you, I don't know why you'd want to do this, but say you had a full body animation where it was an animation of somebody walking and waving at the same time. Well, you could make the bones that for the walking animation very low priority, say 0 or 1, but say the wave animation, the arm, you decided to make that a higher priority, you know, such as 3 or 4. You know, you wanted that part of the animation to override everything else that was below it. Now, of course, if they're using a walk animation already that has priority 4, I don't know what happens when I don't know if it's the one that's currently playing, just keeps playing, you know. So I don't know what happens when you try to play 2 animations that have the same priority. Is it the one that you're playing first remains, or does the second one kick in and override the first one? I'm not sure. I'm not an animator. As you can tell by my horrible animation I made. Okay. So, but anyway, so say you made a walk animation, and in the walk animation you have them wave. You can, like I said, set the legs and the torso and all the other bones of the animation to be a very low priority. And, excuse me, I got a cough again. Okay, I'm back. So you can make those bones a very low priority or a lower priority, and you can make the arm animation for the arm, for the wave, a higher priority, so that if somebody had an animation override, an AO, that they liked their walk, but they wanted to play your wave animation, and as long as that walk animation, the AO's walk animation, was higher, then it would play that, and then when you went to play the animation that they like your wave on, it would only animate the arm. So that's one of the benefits of .anim exporter, in that you can set it so that the individual bones have different priorities. BVH, you can only set the overall setting for it. I'm sure there are other benefits to a .anim exporter versus a BVH files, that, you know, .anim versus BVH. Now, Aura is working on a .anim exporter for Maya, but Maya Lite users won't be able to use it because of the limitations of Maya Lite. So this is good for Maya Lite users to know there are different options for creating, you know. Now, if you're using translation animations, especially on the face, you might want to, and if there's no rotations in that animation on that bone, you're going to want to go into one of my videos I made previous to this one, where I talk about editing the BVH file to get rid of those, to get rid of the wait a minute, okay. If you're doing a translation animation on the face, but no translation animations. If you're doing a rotation only on the face, but no translation animations on a particular bone, but just rotation only, then you want to go into the BVH file and edit it manually to get rid of the translation. And I have another video that shows how to do that, how to edit the BVH file. So that, in the video, I go into the reasons why you'd want to do that. So, so if you have Maya Lite and you want to make facial animations with translations and rotations, or rotations, you're going to probably need to manually edit the BVH file to get rid of the translation information on the bones that just rotate only. And I go through in detail the reasons for it. So watch the other video. Watch the other video. So it's a lot of work, but hopefully it's worth it for those who want to make animations and make animations for faces and the body and all that kind of stuff. So alrighty, well, this is already a half hour long. I think I will stop there. But hopefully you Maya Lite users, if you are struggling, how do I make animations with Maya Lite? Hopefully this will help you out a lot. Getting everything set up. It's taken me like 3 days of working, 10 to 12 hours trying to figure out exactly what steps you need to take, what settings you need to have, to figure this all out to get it to work. Hopefully I just saved you guys hours and hours and hours of time and helped you out. So have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.